The growing environments in nurseries can be anything from a simple sunny growing area like this one in a general plant nursery, right the way through to a computer-controlled greenhouse growing polycolour and flowering crops. The conditions that are provided relate to the needs of the crop, the location and the capital available. Now, the basic environmental needs of plants are the correct temperature range, the correct light level and duration, correct water application and humidity. Now, all of these requirements can be controlled in the nursery growing environment. Nurseries who are able to manipulate the growing conditions may be able to produce plants faster and of a better quality, which of course all leads to increased profitability. Often, a specialised nursery construction company will provide advice, design and construction of nursery facilities. Mr Neil Sutton of VP Industries explains the current trends in nursery design.
Because the nursery industry has become a lot more sophisticated, production flows become important, master planning has become an issue, being able to look at what the nursery is going to be doing in the next 10 years as opposed to what it's going to be doing in the next 12 months. Because of this, a master plan needs to be created so that there's a flow from the time that the soil comes in to right through the whole process, through the germination, through the shade house, through the outside, through the dispatch and delivery, to make sure that the whole thing is planned and efficient. Greenhouses are moving away from the traditional igloo designs more towards elevated sides and multi-span tunnels, being multiple gutter connected spans. This is a greater efficiency, covering larger areas and giving better environmental control. The higher sides means that you're getting better air exchange. The covers have moved away from glass, which is still used in specialised growing and in research, more towards the reinforced greenhouse films and polycarbonates, giving greater thermal efficiencies and better economies. As well as greenhouses, most nurseries have other crop protection structures, such as shade houses or hail protection structures. These structures are moving away from internal post to wide, clear span cable tension structures. This gives greater layout flexibility, and the use of fabric can be anything from a dense knitted shade cloth right through to a lightweight hail net.
The level of temperature control in a nursery will depend largely on the type of nursery buildings in that nursery. Polman's Nursery near Gatton in southeast Queensland is a large grower of seedlings that has to contend with both very hot conditions in summer and occasionally freezing nights in winter. Lionel Saish from Polman's is the technical manager and explains their approach to temperature control in the greenhouses.
Heating is achieved in the greenhouses different ways on our nursery. For example, this house itself, we control it primarily by computer environmental control. We do what we call make use of the best radiation we've got. We have ventilation shade screens, and we basically shut up the house. In the houses we have a hot water pipe system, which we maintain a uniform temperature throughout the house by having some active air movement through things like circulation fans. In other houses we've also got concrete heated floors, where we've got subfloor heating. It really depends on the type of crop mix and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve. It's costly to heat airspace, so we obviously want to minimise our costs, but not to be detrimental to plant quality. The temperature range we seek in the greenhouse depends on the development stage of the crop itself. For example, our seeds we germinate in a germination chamber from a range from about 18 to 23 degrees, depending on species. From then on, we grow the little germinated seeds on at a slightly warmer temperature, up to 25 degrees, and then we gradually harden them off into the sun so they're ready for the home gardener for use. Cooling systems we use in the greenhouse in summer are basically range from the simple use of vents, which we tend to link in with a computer control, to retractable roof and sidewalls like we've got in this house here, and also the use of fans for active air movement to help cooling down through there. We also use the very simple overhead irrigation to cool down the plants during the heat of the summer's days. The heating we use in the propagation area really depends of whether we're using seed or vegetative propagation. For example, where we use the seed raised, germination chambers are used, which have very fine half-degree controls in germination temperatures and humidity controls. In the vegetative area, we're more traditional. We use hot water pipe systems in one area. We also got heated sand beds, and we also use heat mats. So there's quite a range depending on the circumstance and what we're actually trying to grow. The choice of heating and cooling systems we use here at Polman's Nursery really depends on the crops that we grow. We aim to produce quality plants consistently day after day, year after year, and to do this we have to have control over the temperature in our greenhouse structures.
Water application, humidity control and water recycling are crucial factors both environmentally and economically in the success of a nursery. The correct quantity and quality of water needs to be applied according to plant needs. The amount of runoff water should be minimised, and the water that does run off needs to be collected and recycled. Doug Turner is an irrigation specialist with the Southern Queensland Institute of TAFE.
Irrigation in the modern nursery might better be termed water management. Factors affecting irrigation would be water quality, water quantity, the type of media in which the plants are growing, and whether we're only trying to assist the plants in the uptake of nutrients through irrigation or trying to modify the environment in which they're growing. There are many methods used to apply water in the nursery. Drippers, overhead, capillary mat and microsprays would be the major ones. Drippers are conventionally used on large containers or hanging baskets because they deliver set amounts of water directly to the pots. They can also be used to water a large number of pots with a small amount of water. Overhead irrigation systems are one of the most common irrigation systems in the plant nursery. Traditionally they have been used inefficiently, but through proper spacing, operational pressures, head selection, they still have a place in the modern plant nursery. Capillary mat is another form of irrigation system. It involves the pot being placed on a capillary mat, and as the media in the pot begins to dry out, water is drawn from the mat into the pot. Microsprays are another very common form of irrigation. They can be used in many situations, but mainly in smaller areas such as igloos or for production stock in larger pots. The other reason for applying water in a plant nursery is to increase the humidity. The major way of doing this is through the use of misters or foggers. Misters are quite commonly used in propagation houses. They apply water in very small droplet sizes to the newly propagated plants. Foggers, on the other hand, operate at much higher pressures, creating a much smaller droplet size. This has the hygiene benefit of reducing the amount of free water. Whichever irrigation system is used, some form of controller, and in some cases a sensor, such as a weather station, is needed to manage the irrigation system.
John Bunker is a director of one of the largest nurseries in southeast Queensland, Redlands Nursery, with a special interest in nursery water recycling.
Water recycling and conservation is an important part of environmentalist sustainable production and is a key part of ensuring production will continue into the future. This is coming from two different areas. One's environmentally with runoff water and use of water, and also legislatively. In our own situation here, we've been involved with water recycling for more than 20 years, particularly because we didn't have enough water to see us through dry seasons, and it was a case of necessity. There are a number of systems that are available for nurseries for recycling. An important part of it is if water's coming out of a dam, that sand filtration is happening to pick up any organic matter. Water disinfestation is a key part of water recycling. If the water is clear, the use of ultraviolet light. There has been systems of ozonation. One of the most commonly used systems is the use of sodium hypochlorite that's injected into the water. Another one that's being looked favourably upon is the use of bromination, which is a mixture of sodium bromide and also sodium hypochlorite. This is being looked at favourably because it lowers the chlorine discharge levels into the runoff water. Water testing, which is required when reusing water, with disinfestation and sodium hypochlorite or bromination is being used, using a simple pool test kit and checking the chlorine levels daily with a minimum residual at sprinkler head of 0.5 parts per million is required. Also checking your water for pH, nitrates and conductivity, so you know exactly what is happening. Being able to blend reused water with clean sources such as underground or dam can be advantageous and make the whole recycling and reuse water a lot simpler. For further information on water recycling, there are some national publications that have been put out by the the Nursery Industry Association, the NIASA guidelines, which have sections on water disinfestation and water reuse. Also the Waterworks program, which looks at water management, sprinkler layout and design and how to do that efficiently. And thirdly, managing water in plant nurseries, which looks at all those issues and also recycling. All highly commended publications.
All green plants need light to carry out photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process whereby plants are able to capture the energy from light and, together with carbon dioxide, convert it into sugars or starches, or use the energy to power plant growth. Oxygen is a byproduct of photosynthesis. Light is used by plants to trigger many growth changes throughout their lives. For example, many plants use the relative length of day and night to determine flowering time. Nurseries may wish to control both the type and amount of light the plants receive, as well as the length of days. Merv Jenrick from Gladlands Nursery at Victoria Point has had many years' experience in manipulating plant growth.
We control the light environment by having lights in the long winter nights, and during the summer we have a blackout system that blackens out the whole building, and it lessens the number of hours of sunlight that the plant has. By manipulating the light, we can produce plants that flower all the year round, and these particular flowers are highly desirable articles in the floral trade. The cost of running 4,000 lamps that we do is quite an item, but we have arrangements with the Electricity Authority that after 8:30 at night that we have an out-of-hours tariff, and that enables us to be very cost effective. But you've got to remember that when you're going to build a blackout building, you can black out most glass houses, but it will double the cost of the glass house as soon as you talk about putting blackout machinery in a glass house. We have many acres of blackout buildings, and we find that it's a heavy expense, but once you've made it, it then pays for itself very readily.
All of the nursery systems that you've seen have exercised control in some way over the nursery growing environment. Things like light control, temperature, humidity and the watering systems. The control systems in every nursery vary according to the complexity and age of the operation. Most nurseries will use sensors of some type in the nursery that will connect with an electronic controller, like a computer. The sensors may be a simple temperature probe or thermostat, or a full weather station that is able to monitor all environmental parameters. The controller may be a simple battery-powered irrigation controller like this one, or a fully integrated computer control system. This type of controller is able to operate the irrigation system, the lighting system, the vents to cool greenhouses, the heating system and the fertiliser injector, and even be able to notify by email or telephone the owner of the nursery if there are any problems with the system. Many systems are also able to log the data for reference and correction. Growing plants in a commercial nursery can be as simple as finding a full sun area right through to a computer-controlled greenhouse. Whichever system is used, the careful monitoring and management of that environment is essential to produce quality plants that are going to find a market with the buying public.